Meeting to order, another in a series of relatively on-time starts. Madam Secretary, are you checking the clock? That's pretty good. 15-minute, give or take. Will you please report on the agenda for today?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning to you and good morning, Commissioners. Today's agenda includes 2 items for your consideration. First, you will consider a notice of proposed rulemaking that seeks to modernize our cable television rules to facilitate the cable industry's widespread transition from analog to digital transmission systems. Second, you will consider a second report and order, second further notice of proposed rulemaking, second notice of inquiry, order on reconsideration, and memorandum opinion and order that seeks to remove regulatory barriers to make better use of fixed service or FS spectrum and provide additional flexibility to enable FS licensees to reduce operational costs and facilitate the use of wireless backhaul in rural areas. This is your agenda for today. The first item will be presented by the Media Bureau. Michelle Carey, Deputy Chief of the Bureau, will give the introduction.
Thank you, and please, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Today, the Media Bureau presents an item to initiate the review of cable television technical rules in light of the cable industry's ongoing transition to digital service. In particular, the proposals in the NPRM seek to accelerate the digital cable rollout while ensuring that consumers receive good quality cable service and, at the same time, protect the aeronautical communications and navigation bands from interference by digital cable systems. This proceeding reflects the Commission's ongoing commitment to its regulatory reform agenda by revising or eliminating regulations that may be outmoded in today's marketplace. Joining me at the table this morning are Evan Baranoff, Attorney in the Policy Division, John Wong, Chief of the Engineering Division, Allison Netblock, Chief Engineer of the Media Bureau, and Jeffrey Newman, Attorney in the Engineering Division. Jeffrey will present the item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I am pleased to present this notice of proposed rulemaking to modernize our cable television rules to facilitate the cable industry's widespread transition from analog to digital transmission systems. This is necessary because our cable television technical rules were largely established when analog transmission technology was the predominant form of cable and digital technology was nascent. As a result, many of the Commission's technical rules are designed specifically for analog cable service, in some cases unnecessarily limiting the ability of cable operators to efficiently use their spectrum. Today, the vast majority of cable systems offer some digital service, and numerous systems have already migrated to all digital operation. More than 80% of cable subscribers receive some level of digital cable service, and that number is expected to rise. Accordingly, this NPRM seeks to adopt clear and effective rules to reflect technological advancements in the cable television industry and apply them to cable operators in a way that is minimally burdensome. Specifically, the item focuses on 2 aspects of the Commission's technical rules: our signal quality rules, which are designed to ensure customers receive good quality signals from their cable operators, and our signal leakage rules, which protect the aeronautical communications and navigation bands from interference from MVPDs that operate coaxial cable systems. We propose to create digital equivalencies for these analog rules and to simplify and streamline the compliance process wherever possible. Pursuant to Section 624E of the Communications Act, the Commission provides signal quality standards along with testing and record-keeping requirements for cable operators. Currently, these technical rules are applicable only to analog, as opposed to digital, cable signals. In seeking to adopt standards that would apply to digital cable service, we separately address those systems that utilize quadrature amplitude modulation, or QAM, and those that do not. QAM is the technology used by the vast majority of cable systems to serve the majority of digital cable subscribers today. For QAM-based digital systems, the NPRM proposes to use a standard adopted by the Society of Cable Telecommunications Engineers, SCTE 40. SCTE 40 specifies the basic RF signal characteristics necessary to operate a digital cable system. In addition to SCTE 40, the NPRM also proposes to adopt testing and record-keeping requirements similar to those required by our analog rules. Some digital cable systems do not use QAM technology. For example, local exchange carriers that deliver video over twisted pair wires. We collectively call these non-QAM systems. The NPRM seeks comment on whether any industry-driven standards currently exist for these systems. To the extent that such standards do not exist, the item seeks comments on a flexible and efficient process to enable operators using non-QAM systems to demonstrate the delivery of good quality signals to their subscribers. The second major area of focus in the NPRM is signal leakage. MVPDs that operate coaxial cable systems have the potential to interfere with over-the-air users of spectrum if the plant is improperly maintained. As a result, in order to minimize any potential interference, the Commission maintains rules for MVPDs when they operate in the aeronautical communications and navigation bands. These rules require a system of frequency offsets, regular monitoring and maintenance, and Commission notification to ensure adequate protection for this critical spectrum. Like the signal quality rules, the existing signal leakage rules were written specifically for analog transmission. The NPRM proposes to remove the frequency offset requirement, as such a requirement is incompatible with digital transmission. Doing so will permit digital cable operators and other MVPDs using coaxial cable plants to operate at higher power levels over nearly 200 megahertz of their plant, enabling them to deliver higher data rates to their customers. However, to ensure the continued protection of the aeronautical communications and navigation bands, the NPRM also proposes digital equivalency for our analog cumulative leakage calculation. This will allow digital signals to operate without any greater potential for interference than the analog signals they replace. Finally, we have conducted a comprehensive review of our cable television technical rules to identify those that have become outdated, insufficient, or excessively burdensome. Accordingly, we propose to update various technical standards that are incorporated by reference into our rules to reflect their most recent versions. We also propose numerous corrections and clarifications to our rules in order to ease the burden of compliance. The Media Bureau recommends that the Commission adopt this notice of proposed rulemaking and requests editorial privileges.
Thank you. Excellent work, and let's proceed to comments from the bench. Commissioner McDowell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I vote to support this notice initiating a review of cable rules that establish standards to ensure subscribers receive good quality signals and protect spectrum users from potential harmful interference caused by so-called signal leaks from cable systems. And as you pointed out, this isn't just a good idea, but it's the law under Section 624E that we do this sort of thing. So today, approximately 80% of cable subscribers use digital systems to access video programming, but these rules have been based on analog technologies and standards. In fact, these rules, for the most part, have remained unchanged for decades, while technology and innovation have passed them by. For example, the majority of the interference rules date back to 1984, when the number one grossing movie was Beverly Hills Cop, of course. And
Fine movie.
and the top grossing and the number one song on the charts was Prince's When Doves Cry. Great tune, right? The cable signal quality rules are 1992 vintage, when Aladdin was the top grossing film and End of the Road by Boyz II Men topped the chart. I have to confess, I do not remember Boyz II Men. They must have been a one-hit wonder.
No.
You're much younger.
They were not.
They were not?
They were not.
They were not. Okay. They weren't even a one-hit wonder in the McDowell household, apparently. So, but we can have that argument later.
Yes.
A lot has happened since those days. Thus, it makes sense and is a matter of good government to reevaluate and modernize these rules based on today's marketplace. The video market in general and the cable industry in particular are in a continuing state of evolution. Cable operators are investing heavily in all digital systems, but they are also building Internet Protocol platforms for the delivery of their cable offerings. Furthermore, this transformation is taking place in an environment where content is now delivered across multiple platforms, blurring the boundaries between traditional and new media. For instance, cable operators offer traditional cable service, but they also offer broadband Internet access, which can be directly connected to high-definition televisions and mobile devices to access programming, making content available anywhere, anytime. This notice not only proposes quality standards for current industry delivery methods, but also considers metrics for technologies in varying states of deployment. These potential standards could also be applied to technologies yet to be developed. As media convergence evolves and as the cable industry migrates further into an all-IP world, we need to ensure that despite what may be the best of intentions, our regulations do not place undue burden on industry, freeze tomorrow in yesterday's technology, cause regulatory uncertainty, exceed our legal authority, or stifle innovation. I look forward to engaging with all stakeholders regarding these matters, as well as others that this notice will assuredly raise. I hope we can reduce the burdens of testing and record keeping on industry while complying with the letter and spirit of the law, thus ensuring that Americans have reliable cable signals and preventing harmful interference to spectrum users. I applaud the chairman for undertaking this review, along with proposing to eliminate and update other outdated cable regulations. I also thank the terrific team, the Media Bureau, and especially the Engineering Division for their diligent work on this item. This order once again proves the importance of engineers to the Commission's mission and our need to ensure that we can recruit and retain talented and dedicated engineers. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Clyburn.
Thank you. Today we take a major step forward towards syncing our cable television technical and operational requirements with current realities. In light of the fundamental shifts in the industry since these rules were first put into place, these updates were necessary and are grounded in common sense. Through modernized rules on cable proof of performance is signal leakage, the FCC is being flexible and forward-looking when it comes to the industries that it regulates. We offer a set of rules that seek to create quality standards for the performance of digital cable systems where only standards for analog signals existed. 80% of today's customers now receive some level of digital service. With today's NPRM, no longer will cable providers that use digital signals to reach their customers have to seek waivers to proof of purchase rules or risk enforcement actions for noncompliance. Digital cable providers will now have a standard of performance against which their signals can be measured, and the FCC will have the means to ensure that consumers are receiving a minimum level of service. Similarly, we are seeking to set standards for digital cable signal leakage where only analog standards existed. Improperly maintained coaxial cable systems can potentially interfere with aircraft communications. Prior to this item, there were no interference standards that applied to digital signals. Approval of this item will mean that we are closer to establishing a standard that will provide aeronautical communications the same level of protection from digital cable signal leakage as it currently has from analog signal leakage. In sum, the changes that we seek are both consumer and industry friendly. In addition, these requirements will enhance public safety by minimizing needless interference with airline communications. And the industry stands to benefit from the stability of standardized matrix and by no longer having to continually seek a waiver from a rule that may no longer make sense in light of a changed marketplace. Today's updates provide a more coherent regulatory environment for all interested parties, and I wish to thank the Media Bureau, especially Jeff Newman, for the great work on this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Rosenworcel.
It is no secret that we are mid-course in a migration from the analog world to the digital world. This is true across so many sectors of our economy, but it is especially the case when it comes to communications. One of the less heralded parts of our digital march forward is the transition that is underway with cable systems. Like so many infrastructures, public and private, it requires update and modernization. In this case, modernization means moving from analog to digital technology. This facilitates new telephony services, frees bandwidth for high-definition programming, and creates more capacity for Internet access and Internet-enabled activities. Today's notice of proposed rulemaking clears the way for this kind of progress. It does this by updating old technical rules and ushering in new digital proof of performance and signal leakage policies. They will promote efficiency and grow the possibilities of our communications infrastructure. So it has my full support. Finally, I want to thank the Media Bureau for its work on this item, and especially the Engineering Division. I had the privilege of meeting with John Wong earlier this week, and I know that our media engineers do not always present at meetings like this, but I want to make sure that you know that we appreciate the work you do and how important it is for this agency. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Pai.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In this notice of proposed rulemaking, we see comment on a variety of modifications to our Part 76 technical rules to account for the rise in digital cable service. Or, to put it another way, we begin the process of matching our cable regulations to the realities of the American marketplace. The ongoing transition from analog to digital service is bringing widespread benefits to consumers, enabling them to enjoy more advanced services, a wider array of programming choices, and better picture quality. This item appropriately seeks to accelerate those trends. I am pleased to support this effort, and I commend the chairman for his leadership on this front. Given the pace of change in the communications industry, it is imperative that we review our rules regularly and assess whether they should be updated or eliminated to reflect changes in technology or marketplace conditions. As the technology used to transmit signals is changing, so too must the Commission's rules. In keeping with this approach, this item seeks to modernize our technical standards for cable systems, while at the same time minimizing the burdens on the private sector. I'm optimistic that the proposals set forth in the Notice of Proposed Rulemaking represent a common sense approach for moving ahead, and I look forward to reviewing the input of cable operators, consumer groups, local franchising authorities, and all other stakeholders. There are, however, a couple of issues that merit special attention. First, I do not oppose asking for a comment on whether we should supplement our current proof of performance rules with qualitative measures to assess subjective consumer perceptions of video quality. But I do think we should proceed with some caution in this regard. Administrative rules should be clear and easy to administer, and it may be difficult to make an accurate judgment as to what is in the eyes of millions of beholders. Second, we seek comment on a few ideas that could have the effect of increasing testing requirements on cable systems. In assessing such proposals, I will carefully examine the record to see if the costs of these proposals are outweighed by their benefits. Finally, I hope that this item portends further reforms to our Part 76 rules. For example, I would support resolving another issue related to the transition from analog to digital cable service, basic tier encryption. I stand willing to work with the chairman and my fellow commissioners on this and other matters that could bring our cable regulations more fully in line with the times. In conclusion, I want to thank the Bureau staff for their hard work on this complicated and highly technical item. I particularly want to thank Jeff Newman, Michelle Carey, and Alison Neplock for translating several parts of it into plain English for me during a briefing earlier this week. Your counsel then was very valuable to me, and your work on the item generally is of great benefit to the Commission and to the American public. So thank you for your efforts.
Thank you, Commissioner Pai. The cable industry has been transitioning from analog to digital, as we've heard, and that transition has already brought significant benefits to consumers and to our country. The investment in this transition has brought a dramatic increase in the ability of cable operators to carry more data on the same cable plant. This has begun to translate to higher broadband speeds and capacity, as well as digital voice service, more channels, and high-definition TV. Because our cable plant in the U.S. reaches well over 90% of our country, this is helping achieve our goals of universal service and competition. And over the past 3 years, thanks in large part to upgrades in cable networks, we've gone from 20% of our population living in areas with broadband infrastructure capable of delivering 100 megabits per second to 80%. We've made real progress, but ongoing increases in broadband speed and capacity are essential to realizing the full potential of broadband. More robust networks will enable bandwidth-intensive applications like distance learning, remote healthcare, and the growth of multi-billion-dollar industries like cloud computing, which in turn helps drive the growth of businesses large and small. Bandwidth abundance drives innovation and economic growth. It enables the cutting-edge innovations of today and the undiscovered innovations of tomorrow. While we've seen real improvement in the speed and capacity of our broadband networks over the past 3 years, we need to see more. We need to be talking about gigabits, not megabits. We need to ensure that the U.S. has a strategic bandwidth advantage to drive U.S.-based innovation and our global competitiveness. Now, among the ways the FCC can help enhance broadband speed and capacity are removing barriers to infrastructure build-out and making sure our rules are updated for the digital age. This proceeding implements those principles. While we must ensure that cable subscribers receive quality signals and protect critical aeronautical services, the current rules governing proof of performance and signal leakage are optimized for an analog world. They are wasteful, as we've heard, and unnecessarily restrictive, often resulting in inefficient use of limited cable spectrum. We propose today to update our rules to recognize the importance of digital cable, to remove or modify requirements no longer needed, and to clear away unnecessary impediments to the full utilization of digital capacity. This reflects the Commission's ongoing commitment to regulatory reform. Just as in our recent viewability order, we're taking action to increase cable system efficiency and capacity while continuing to protect consumers. These proceedings modernize our rules, facilitate the digital transition, and allow systems to use even more of their available cable plant for advanced digital services, including broadband. The FCC is doing its part. It's imperative the cable operators do theirs, and that we see ongoing expansion of broadband speed, capacity, and availability. I look forward to an open and inclusive proceeding. I thank my colleagues for their input into this item. I join my colleagues in thanking the staff for excellent work, and I was very pleased to hear my colleagues talk about the importance of engineers to our process at the FCC. The FCC, to do our work, needs the high-quality engineers that we have and more. We need great economists. We need great lawyers. We need the full, diverse set of staff that we have. And I'm glad that we're all working together to make sure that the FCC continues to be a model for excellence in government when it comes not only to our work product, but to our staff. And, of course, the two are very closely related. So thank you. And with that, let's proceed to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the request for editorial privileges is granted. So thank you again very much. And Madam Secretary, item 2, please.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, the next item on your agenda will be presented by the Wireless Telecommunications Bureau. It is entitled Amendment of Part 101 of the Commission's Rules to facilitate the use of microwave for wireless backhaul and other uses, and to provide additional flexibility to broadcast auxiliary service and operational fixed microwave licensees.
Thank you, and take your time, but whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, and to the intern sitting in the back row. You may not be aware of this, but August is National Wireless Backhaul Month, or at least it is in the Wireless Bureau. Today's presentation represents our third annual action to remove regulatory barriers that inhibit the use of spectrum for wireless backhaul and other point-to-point communications. In August 2010, drawing from recommendations from the National Broadband Plan, the Commission's initiated a proceeding to evaluate and improve the rules governing wireless backhaul. In August 2011, we built upon these efforts and adopted the Wireless Backhaul First Report and Order, where we freed up additional spectrum for wireless backhaul and eliminated unnecessary and outdated regulations. In August 2012, we are continuing these efforts. Today's report and order meets a number of the Commission's important goals, not the least of which is to update the rules to help facilitate the swift and ubiquitous deployment of fourth-generation mobile networks and increase productive investment in these networks. And our further notice of proposed rulemaking means we can look forward to a fourth National Wireless Backhaul Month next year. Joining me at the table are Blaise Cinto, Chief of the Wireless Telecommunication Bureau's Broadband Division, John Schaubel, Deputy Chief of the Division, Steve Benzo, another Deputy Chief in the Division, Charles Oliver, Attorney in the Division, and Chris Andes, Engineer in the Division. I also want to thank two of my colleagues in the front office, Melissa Tai and Jessica Allman, for their hard work getting this order past the finish line. Mr. Oliver will present the item.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. The item before you today continues our efforts to update the Commission's rules to facilitate the provision of fixed microwave services. Microwave stations are often used as wireless backhaul in support of mobile wireless networks. Today, we update our regulations to reflect current technology, eliminate outdated regulations, and allow operators, particularly those in rural areas, to deploy microwave facilities in a more cost-effective manner. Microwave is an increasingly useful middle-mile component of broadband networks. In mobile wireless networks, backhaul facilities are used to transmit voice or data between cell sites or between cell sites and network backbones. As such, backhaul facilities are critical to the delivery of mobile broadband service. Backhaul costs currently constitute a significant portion of a mobile wireless operator's network operating expense, and the demand for backhaul capacity is increasing. In the second report and order, we permit operators to use smaller antennas in 3 of the most heavily used microwave bands. Smaller antennas can result in significant cost savings to operators, and our engineering analysis has found that smaller antennas can be allowed without increasing the risk of interference. The item also adopts a rural microwave flexibility policy that relieves operators in rural, non-congested areas from complying with our microwave efficiency standards under certain circumstances. Such relief can allow operators to build substantially longer links, which can result in major cost savings by eliminating the need for intermediate relay stations. The item also updates our efficiency standards by replacing requirements based on voice circuits with bits per second per hertz values, which more accurately reflect modern technologies. In addition, the second report in order allows wider channels in 2 microwave bands, which will mean faster data speeds for consumers. It also limits the circumstances under which applicants need waivers to locate fixed microwave links near geostationary satellite facilities. By doing so, we conform our rules to international regulations and make it possible for microwave stations to deploy service more expeditiously. In the second report, in the second notice of inquiry and second further notice of proposed rulemaking, we seek comment on several additional ideas designed to facilitate the use of microwave spectrum for wireless backhaul and other vital purposes. Specifically, the second FNPRM seeks comment on allowing smaller antennas in the 13 gigahertz microwave band, modifying a special antenna rule applicable to the 11 gigahertz band, and providing licensees more flexibility in upgrading antennas to resolve interference issues. The second notice of inquiry solicits ideas more generally for updating our antenna standards to reflect changes in technology and allow new types of antennas which could result in faster and more cost-effective deployments. Finally, the item also affirms certain of the Commission's earlier decisions in the wireless backhaul proceeding and addresses certain other proposals raised by commenters. The Wireless Telecommunications Bureau recommends adoption of this item and requests editorial privileges. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Terrific presentation. Commissioner McDowell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not to belabor the point, but I have this sinking feeling I'm going to get angry emails from Boys to Men fans. Perhaps led by Commissioner Clyburn, and well-deserved. Okay, well, 1992, I was busy billing hours. I didn't hear much music at all. So perhaps if I had had more wireless backhaul, that would have provided me with more content. But anyway, looking for a segue here. Most consumers are unaware that their calls, texts, and emails could not function without invisible but critical backhaul components. Today, by partially getting out of the way to foster a healthier environment for the creation of cost efficiencies for the entities that build and operate networks, the Commission is taking another step to spur the construction of advanced broadband networks in both urban and rural areas. For instance, adopting more flexible rules that allow for the use of smaller antennas, as was pointed out, reduces the construction cost by over $2,000 for a single communications link. I'm hopeful that wholesale and retail consumers alike will benefit from these savings. Given their importance, I am pleased to approve our actions today, and I thank Chairman Janikowski for identifying and bringing to a vote this rule modernization. In addition to allowing the market to reclaim its freedom to build at lower cost, employing smaller antennas and making use of wider channels will permit creation of higher capacity links, which will be especially helpful to efforts to connect rural America to state-of-the-art broadband services. Likewise, we are updating our efficiency standards to incorporate a more practical approach for providers serving rural areas, which we hope will boost cost savings and create greater economies of scale. I look forward to learning about additional opportunities to pare back additional long-standing and outdated regulations through the Notice of Proposed Rulemaking and the Notice of Inquiry. Thank you to all the interested parties that have informed our analysis, and also want to thank the talented folks in the Wireless Bureau, and especially the engineers. It's Engineer Day, I think. Applaud on Engineer Day for all of your work in this area. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Clyburn.
I am pleased to see that the Bureau is continuing its reform of Part 101 of the Commission's rules in order to facilitate more wireless service deployment. Those of us, at least in this room, know that backhaul transport is necessary to extend wireless service, but backhaul imposes significant cost on wireless carriers, especially in rural areas. As a consequence, carriers are increasing their reliance on fixed wireless service over microwave communications in order to reduce those costs. Between 2005 and 2009, the amount of backhaul traffic sent by fixed wireless increased from 8.7% to 12.4%. So rule changes that enable greater use of microwave communications is great news for wireless customers. Last summer, we adopted changes that could enable as much as 650 megahertz of spectrum for backhaul transport in rural areas. Today's amendment should also spur greater deployment of services by substantially reducing operational costs to provide wireless backhaul. Permitting smaller antennas in the 6, 18, and 23 gigahertz bands can allow the industry to realize significant cost savings because smaller antennas are cheaper to manufacture, install, and maintain. The evidence in the record shows, for example, that if an operator using a 6 gigahertz link is able to use a 3-foot antenna instead of a 6-foot antenna, site rental costs could increase or decrease by $7,200 each year. In addition, smaller antennas allow existing towers to accommodate more antennas and allow installations at sites that would not otherwise be able to accommodate larger antennas. Allowing 60 and 80 megahertz channels in the 6 and 11 gigahertz bands could also result in a number of benefits, including faster data service and more efficient use of spectrum. I am also happy to reaffirm that the Commission is listening to industry and, as shown in the Notice of Inquiry, is embarking on a comprehensive review of its antenna standards. Since manufacturers are developing next-generation antennas that will introduce a greater array of options for deploying wireless backhaul, the Commission should review its rules to see if any changes are necessary to facilitate deployment of these new antennas. I wish to thank John Leibowitz for letting us know that is wireless backhaul. Okay. And Mr. Oliver and the staff of the Wireless Telecommunications Bureau for presenting us with such an excellent item. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Rosenworth.
Let me start by thanking the chairman for bringing us this item today. This is one of those unsung but undeniably important issues. And thank you also to the Bureau for its work in August on wireless backhaul. Backhaul is the lifeblood of so much of communications. It is the essential artery from the network edge to the network core. Traditionally, backhaul has been the province of copper circuits and fiber optic lines. But in a world gone wireless, microwave facilities are now often used to transmit data between cell sites and between cell sites and network backbones. The steps we take today are technical. They update microwave backhaul efficiency standards, provide higher capacity channels, and allow use of smaller antennas. They also adopt policies that will lower barriers to entry in rural areas where laying new fiber for backhaul can be prohibitively expensive. But at their heart, these are rules that promote flexibility. In doing so, they strengthen the foundation of our wireless systems by creating new opportunities to manage the deluge of mobile data that is already beginning to rush over next-generation wireless networks. Managing this flood will not be simple or easy. As demand for mobile data grows and the supply of unencumbered spectrum decreases, the pressure is on. We will look to the private sector to innovate and create new technologies that will multiply the capacity of our airwaves. We must also consider structured incentives to reward efficient spectrum use by federal authorities. But this agency, too, needs to be quick and agile. Moving ahead like we do here is a small but critical part of reducing the cost of deployment and growing our wireless infrastructure. To build on efforts like this, I believe it would also be prudent to provide a timeline for upcoming wireless auctions. So I look forward to working with my colleagues at the agency to make this happen.
Thank you. Commissioner Pai.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In my view, two of the FCC's top priorities should be removing regulatory barriers to infrastructure investment and broadening the stock of spectrum that is available for commercial broadband use. Now, much of the attention these days obviously is focused on some of the more high-profile matters addressing these objectives, such as reform of the Universal Service Fund and the implementation of our new incentive auction authority. But we should not overlook steps that we can take to loosen regulatory bottlenecks in other important areas. Backhaul presents one such opportunity. It is a critical step in the transmission of communication signals. For instance, it does little, if any, good for a customer with a mobile device to have a strong connection with a nearby tower, or for her wireless network to have a comprehensive nationwide footprint, if the communications link between the tower and her network is clogged, constrained, or non-existent. Wireless backhaul, in particular, can be a vital network component in areas where wireline infrastructure, such as fiber or copper, is difficult or prohibitively expensive to deploy. Facilitating greater use of wireless backhaul, thus, can enable infrastructure investment and help address our pressing spectrum needs. I'm therefore pleased to support today's item, which continues reform of our Part 101 rules addressing microwave services. The actions taken in this item extend the Commission's efforts to make it easier and more economical to deploy microwave backhaul to meet consumers' growing demand for mobile services. Now, there are plenty of well-considered reforms in this item, but I'm particularly optimistic about our decision to adopt a rural microwave flexibility policy. This policy will provide licensees the opportunity to obtain a waiver from existing efficiency standards in uncongested rural areas. These waivers will allow licensees to utilize longer links and fewer intermediate relay stations in these areas, yielding significant savings and making it more cost-effective for providers to deploy infrastructure. Just as one example, the cost of a single intermediate relay station can be $500,000. I would especially like to thank the chairman for setting forth the expectation that the Wireless Telecommunications Bureau will act on these important waiver applications within 90 days, absent extraordinary circumstances. This will help add certainty to operators' business models when they make their deployment plans. I'm hopeful that this reform, along with the others that we adopt today, will accelerate infrastructure investment and improve the quality of mobile service enjoyed by rural Americans. Backhauling mobile data traffic to the internet is quickly becoming a more substantial component of the cost of operating a mobile network. Today's item will help to reduce those expenses, but as our second further notice of proposed rulemaking suggests, there's more that we can do. I look forward to reviewing the record that will be compiled in response to the second further notice, and I will also carefully examine the views of commenters as to whether it is time to institute a comprehensive review of our Part 101 antenna standards. In short, if anyone has ideas for how we can further remove regulatory barriers to use of wireless backhaul, I'm ready to listen. And to borrow from Commissioner McDowell's theme, I think it's time to adopt in this area the Boys to Men approach that it's so hard to say goodbye to yesterday, but with respect to some of our rules, it is highly appropriate. In conclusion, I would like to thank the hardworking staff of the Bureau for their perseverance on this complex but important proceeding. I especially appreciate the recent briefing I received on the nuts and bolts of this item from John Leibovitz, Melissa Tai, and John Schabel. It really, once again, informed my thinking about this issue, and we thank all of you for your work. Sorry, Blaise Cinto as well. I didn't mean to leave you out, Blaise. Sorry. For your work on this item. It was really valuable to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have no song, but I have a movie. This is the third August in a row where we're addressing wireless backhaul, which I think makes this a Groundhog Day moment. And I think John Leibovitz is our Bill Murray. True in many ways. But as the Bureau and as all my colleagues have pointed out, backhaul, while not widely understood, is a vital part of our both wireless and wired infrastructure. It's a key part of the skeleton supporting broadband. It's often, for the reason Commissioner Clyburn and my other colleagues mentioned, a more efficient way of transmitting data from antennas into the network, particularly in rural areas where the costs of building out fiber are obviously much higher than in urban areas. This is often referred to as middle mile, and in a variety of ways over the last 3 years, wireless and wired, we've sought to lower the costs and speed the deployment of options to have improved middle mile backhaul. Last year, we modified our rules to make additional spectrum available for wireless backhaul and to provide additional flexibility for licensees to reduce operational costs. The Commission's actions today will enable even more microwave wireless backhaul deployment in rural areas, among other things. Today's item grants wireless backhaul providers the flexibility to use smaller antennas. We heard about the specific cost benefits of that. It updates the Commission's efficiency standards to reflect today's data-centric world. It introduces a microwave rural flexibility policy and permits higher capacity links, enabling faster data rates. This item is part of our broadband acceleration initiative, focusing on ways to reduce barriers to broadband infrastructure deployment, to speed broadband build-out and reduce costs to broadband providers, which can then pass those savings on to consumers while building out broadband more quickly. So this item, and in fact the earlier item we did today, and the pole attachment order we adopted several months ago, and the tower siting order that we adopted a couple of years ago, they're just some of a focused effort on broadband acceleration, wired and wireless. And so I'm pleased by the ongoing effort of all of our staff to look for ways in which we can accelerate broadband by removing unnecessary regulatory barriers, finding ways to decrease the costs of broadband build-out, including backhaul build-out. It's very important work. This item also advances our regulatory reform agenda by, again, removing regulatory barriers that today limit the use of spectrum for wireless backhaul and similar communications. These changes will have a positive near-term impact. For instance, with respect to the microwave rural flexibility policy, I expect that the Wireless Bureau will act on waiver applications within 90 days, absent extraordinary circumstances. This item removes other regulatory barriers even sooner, with no additional Commission action necessary. And finally, of course, this item supports our overall spectrum agenda by allowing more intensive use, more efficient use of microwave spectrum. We can further support broadband deployment, particularly, again, in hard-to-reach rural areas, and enable consumers to reap the benefits that flow from wired and wireless broadband adoption. The Commission's efforts to promote broadband and wireless backhaul won't end with this order. August comes every year, and we know John is working on what truly will be his moment at the Oscars. Thank you to my colleagues again. Very good input we got from the 8th floor on this item. Thank you again to the staff. And again, I echo my colleagues on emphasizing the importance of our engineers. These are two good, very good items today that are related in ways that may not seem obvious at first glance. Thank you. And with that, let's proceed to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and the request for editorial privileges is granted. So thank you all very much. And let's see. I think that allows us to move on to any personnel announcements that any commissioners might have. Let's just so Commissioner McDowell, do you have any today? None today. Commissioner Clyburn, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to say goodbye to three people that I hate to see go in a lot of ways, but I understand that that's a cycle of life sometimes. So if these, at least two of the three people would stand up. Suman Tadapure, Seth Atkinson, and I would like to also acknowledge Kia Johnson in her absence. I believe she has a major test today. We'll forgive her for that and excuse her. These three individuals, interns, have been so invaluable to staff. They've assisted us in 3 oversight hearings, something they didn't really sign up for, but they got it anyway. That's another part of life. And but their great humor and strong work ethic really saved more than one day. So I want to thank them so much for all of their work and their just great attitudes, and you will be sorely missed, but the best to you always. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Rosenworcel.
I would like to welcome David Goldman to my office as Senior Legal Advisor. He will have primary responsibility for wireless, international, and public safety matters, and he comes to the office from a detail to the United States Senate Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation, where he served as counsel to the Subcommittee on Communications, Technology, and the Internet. Before that, I believe he was known in these halls, and some of his time was spent as a policy advisor in the Wireless Telecommunications Bureau. He also first came to the agency as an attorney through its Honors Attorney program. He served as a law clerk in the 7th Circuit in Chicago and as an associate at the law firm of Hughes, Hubbard & Reed in New York. He's a graduate of the University of Florida and the University of Pennsylvania School of Law, and we are very happy to have him in the office and back at the agency. But with his arrival, we are going to have a departure. And I just want to make note of the work that Paul Murray has done in my office. He has served as my wireless advisor from the day that I showed up, and he stepped into the role with smarts, enthusiasm, and grace. And he's also demonstrated a spectacular willingness to tolerate my nonstop questioning and my inquiries about wireless matters, large and small. So I want to thank him for his service and also especially for his friendship.
Commissioner Pai.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no particular announcements of my own, but I did want to mention Mr. Goldman. During my previous stint at the Commission, I had the privilege of working with David, both in his capacity as a Wireless Bureau attorney and as one of your advisors when he was in the chairman's office. He was terrific to work with. We, in particular, worked on one of the items that had long been stranded, in the backlog of wireless issues. It was, small but very complicated, and with his leadership, we were able to, finally get that adopted. And so that was just one of many examples of how David enables the trains to move on time. And I'm sure that in his new capacity as Commissioner Rosenworcel's advisor, he's going to be deploying that same capability, shall we say. So we are privileged to have him, and I look forward to working with him as well. Thank you.
Terrific, and I echo that as well. It's wonderful to welcome David back to the FCC family, and Commissioner Rosenworcel, you're lucky to have him. I very much enjoyed the time he spent in the chairman's office, and he's been just a very valuable addition to the commission in his time here. We were sad to lose him to the Hill. Someday, perhaps, now that you're here, we can work together to eliminate the details. But it's a great opportunity for people like David to be able to spend time working on the Hill and then come back. And David, we're very lucky to have you, and welcome back. I want to acknowledge the terrific interns we have in the chairman's office. We have 5. 3 of them are enrolled in D.C. law schools, and so notwithstanding their familiarity with Washington Summers, they elected to stay here and work at the FCC over the summer, which of course was the right decision, certainly for us, because we've really valued the work that each of you has done this summer. Let me acknowledge each of you, and I would ask you each to stand and be recognized. Jenny Bone, who joins us from GW Law School. Before law school, Jenny was a journalist at newspapers like the Norwich Bulletin and the Birmingham Post-Herald, and she spent last summer as a legal intern with the FBI. In our office, Jenny has worked on spectrum policy and caller ID issues. Jenny, thank you. Stay standing. Peter Hart. Peter joins us from Georgetown University Law Center. Peter is not only is going to law school here, is a native of D.C. and a Nationals fan, I'm certain. Also the right decision. Peter split his internship between our office and the Media Bureau and has worked on closed captioning and CVAA issues. Jacob McDermott joins us from the Columbus School of Law at Catholic University. He has a master's in sports management and is now training for his first Ironman race this summer. He's worked on wireless safety issues. Meredith Rose. Great. Meredith comes to us from the University of Chicago Law School, where she's the president of the Intellectual Property Law Society. Meredith conducted research on broadband availability, the apps economy, and other issues this summer. And finally, Ryan Tharp. Ryan joins us from the University of Colorado Law School. He also did legal studies at the National University of Singapore. Ryan split his summer in our office and the Wireless Bureau, worked on stolen cell phone and tribal issues, among others. You all are just a fantastic group. We're very lucky to have you at the FCC. I want to say to you and others that many of us began our careers at the FCC through internships or entry-level staff jobs. And it's just a wonderful place to be earlier in your career, as you've seen a great space, a great place to learn, and a place where you can really make a positive difference, as you already have this summer. So I hope as you go back to school that you'll each consider the FCC as a future home after law school and spread the word about the FCC. But the most important thing is we really appreciate your decision to come here and the great work that you've done this summer. So thank you all. Commissioner McDowell?
So I have a tradition of actually not saying publicly goodbye to our law clerks. I'm not very good at goodbyes, but I didn't want you all to think that you were being slighted in any way. I prefer the hellos to the goodbyes, but what's been weighing on my mind throughout this meeting, of course, has been my lack of knowledge of Boys to Men. So I think we're going to have a research assignment for you as soon as we get back upstairs. So you all have done a wonderful job, and there have been a number of congressional hearings and several meetings. You've actually had a very good summer in terms of exposure to a lot of different things that we have to do as commissioners and as a commission. And this has been just an outstanding group. So just want to thank them all collectively. So thank you.
Good. And thank you to all of you. With that, Madam Secretary, would you announce the date of our next commission meeting?
The next agenda meeting of the Federal Communications Commission will be Friday, September 7th, 2012.
Terrific. Thank you very much. And this meeting is adjourned. I thought, actually, Madam Secretary, did you say the 27th?
28th.
The 28th.
The 28th. Is it a Friday?
Yep.
Is that right? All right. Thank you. Water. Let me, see ya. Good morning to all of you for assembling today. I had a couple of brief things I wanted to note on before we started, if I could. As some of you know, I was in rural Nevada and California earlier this week, visiting areas that are going to get broadband because of the adoption of our Connect America Fund last year. I was there with Maggie Wilderotter, who's the CEO of Frontier, whose service extends to this area. These were the first announcements of build-out under the Connect America Fund. Under the announcements we made this week, tens of thousands of homes will be connected by Q4 of this year, 100,000 within 2 years. So it's 100,000 homes in rural Nevada and California being connected because of the Connect America Fund in 2 years. Keep in mind that that would be ahead of schedule because in the Connect America funding we gave companies 3 years to take the funds and deploy broadband. These particular deployments will reflect a 3-to-1 ratio between the amount of private investment and the government investment under the Connect America Fund. So for every $1 of Connect America money, $3 of private sector money. It was extremely gratifying to see our vision for Connect America coming to reality in rural America. And we can give you more detail on the places we visited. I would say the other thing that was just very gratifying about the trip was meeting with people in these communities who talked very excitedly about what broadband would mean to them. I talked to a small business owner who was just thrilled to finally be able to have broadband in his area. I talked to a community doctor who said it's going to change the provision of health care in that area. It was a very valuable visit. The other thing I wanted to comment on today, the U.S. is submitting its proposals today to the ITU in connection with the upcoming WICET meeting. Our submission will take a strong position on Internet freedom. This is something, as you know, that I've been advocating for 3 years, and I'm very pleased that the U.S. proposals, that the U.S. submissions take the position that proposals to restrict Internet freedom would threaten one of the most powerful engines for global economic growth and the spread of democracy in the 21st century. So with that, happy to take questions on anything.
Mr. Chairman, Paul Kirby, OTR Daily. I have a question on the 700 megahertz waiver order released this week. Your Republican colleagues had expressed some concerns that the conditions set for folks to get STAs might be too hard for them. And so also there was some concern that the decisions on waivers, STAs will be made at the bureau level instead of the FCC, the 8th floor. Can you respond to those concerns?
Yes. I'm pleased that we, first of all, were able to work together, get the order out. It's a priority of the Commission to do what we need to do to move forward on the new legislation that finally funds a national interoperable broadband public safety network. The statute very clearly lays out a vision for a single FirstNet. We also have the obligation to look at concrete potential exceptions to that. And I feel strongly that the Bureau in its recommendation and what we voted got the balance right. The processes that were adopted in that order were consistent with processes that we generally utilize. They're efficient. They will give everyone a complete say, and I'm glad we were able to work together, get the vote out. We won't always agree on everything at the Commission, but it's important that we continue to move forward, provide clarity to people in the marketplace, set the rules and the standards, and move forward.
Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Chairman. Brooks Bullock, Politico. The Department of Defense is the largest holder of spectrum in America. How do you convince them to give some of it up, share it, whatever?
As you know, it's vitally important to our economy that we free up more spectrum for mobile broadband. The NTIA is doing very important work and thinking creatively about ways to do that. Because it's extremely important, I've sought over the last few months to engage directly with senior officials in the Pentagon, in the services, because I'm convinced that high-level direct communications will increase the likelihood that our agencies can together develop solutions that will do two things. One, get more spectrum available to commercial users. And second, help the military address some of the challenges that it faces with spectrum and spectrum-based communications devices in the 21st century. The gap between military communications devices and commercial communications devices is growing, measured by functionality and price. And I do see the potential for win-win solutions in both making more available spectrum available for commercial users and exploring a number of the sharing ideas which could help the military take advantage of the multi-trillion-dollar global supply market for commercial communications devices. I do want to say one other thing clearly. I've said this in other settings, but I want to make sure it's not misunderstood. My view is that we need to move forward with the traditional tool of clearing and reallocating. We also need to move forward with the new sharing ideas that have been developed. It's not an either-or choice. There may be some areas where clearing is not possible because of the complexity of the equipment, because of the cost, and because of the time delay, where sharing could provide a valuable alternative. And so that's the course that I believe we should pursue, continuing to clear and reallocate, and also as quickly and aggressively addressing new sharing opportunities in addition to the clearing and reallocation opportunities.
Hi, Mr. Chairman. Todd Shields, Bloomberg News. There have been a couple of hearings in Congress about video programming in recent months, and program outages have drawn lawmakers' attention, and it's likely to be a topic in the forthcoming Congress. What is the FCC doing to limit program outages, and are you addressing the balance of power between broadcasters and cable?
Well, as you know, we have a proceeding that we launched that looks at some potential changes in our rules that could benefit consumers. But as I've said, the fundamental framework for retransmission consent is something that was adopted by Congress, and our ability to take major reforms under that is quite limited. So the proceeding remains open. We look very closely. We continue to look very closely at it. Our central concern is that of consumers. Consumers, for very understandable reasons, don't like to be blacked out. It's not in the interests of either the business parties that are there, but it's an issue that, as there are blackouts, will generate more concern from consumers, interest from Congress, and we will continue to act within our authority to do what's appropriate to foster the market and to protect consumers.
Can I ask just one more, since there are only three of us? Has the political file lit up yesterday, and it looked like it worked pretty well, except for maybe a couple little glitches. Can you give us a little update, analysis? How do you think it went?
I think it went great. Adding transparency in the broad space. In this space is very important. Harnessing technology in ways that are really commodity practices now makes complete sense. And so, as you know, I see this as part of a very long series of things that we have done and we will do to take information that is paper information and make it available. That is paper information and public, and make it available to the public on the internet. It's been a fundamental goal of ours from day one. Brooks, as you know, I mentioned it in my speech the very first day, harnessing technology to increase transparency. And we'll continue to do it and continue to look to expand it.
Thank you.
All right, have a great day, everyone.